everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Sekani, a podcast for people in their 20s who are trying to figure out life and not get lost along the way. Today, I'm joined by Michael Ostrolenk, a human resilience and conscious relationship coach, helping people build emotional strength, deeper connection, and healthier inner worlds. Welcome, Michael. And can you tell us more about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, thank you so much. Almost 30 years as a licensed psychotherapist. For the last 25 of those 30 years, I've been doing coaching. So I still have a license, but I don't practice on my license. I just do coaching. And my areas that I focus in on in the most recent past, I co-lead a men's group with JC Glick. He's a former Army Ranger here in the United States. I also do couples work. I'm originally trained as a marriage and family therapist, so I do a lot of couples work. I do a lot of work with individuals, and I also do team building within corporations as well. A little bit of everything.
All right. So, I was going to ask, what life experience actually, pulled you towards resilience and conscious relationships?
Yeah, so I would say on the resilience side, when I was 5 years old, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. It's called
Mm,
osteomyelitis, means your immune system attacks your bones, the bones. And I spent about a month in the hospital getting treated. And after over time, I got over that. But it kind of left a psychic scar or a psychological scar because I was five. And it's kind of scary to be in the hospital and never not knowing what's going on. And that led to some internal challenges. And we
mm,
add on to that, I was also diagnosed a couple years later with some learning disabilities. And although I was a smart kid, some things in school was really hard and challenging. So between the medical stuff and the school related stuff, I had a lot of internal battles going on inside my head. And I was really fortunate because my mom found me a fantastic therapist. And this is 1979, so this is a million years ago. But she
mm,
taught me meditation, guided imagery. She got me into the martial arts. I learned biofeedback from her. So, as age 9 years old, I learned to manage my nervous system. I learned to
mm,
self-mastery. I just learned how the body and the mind work as best as I could as a 9 year old, and then got
mm,
to play around with that. And that was kind of the beginning of my explorations around resilience and
mm.
what's possible for us as human beings.
Wow. Okay. So, was there a moment that forced your personal awakening? I feel like you said that already, but like, can you elaborate on it?
I can give you another one if you like. If that's
Okay.
cool.
Yeah.
So I was in the middle of an MBA program.
Mm,
I was doing fine, like a B plus average. It was all good. And a friend of mine was murdered. A friend of mine that I've known since kindergarten was murdered in a bar fight. And
mm,
about a month later, a teacher of mine in this MBA program committed suicide. And I think it's Carl Jung talks about the dark night of the soul. And this the murder and the suicide just kind of got me in a really dark place. And
mm,
in that explorations of the darkness, I was like, life is short. What do I really want to do? Or do I really want to be doing what I'm doing? And I was like, no, not really. Like the MBA was okay, but I wasn't really interested in business. What I was interested in, and it goes back to what I was sharing before, when I was 9, 10, 11 years old, was like philosophy, psychology, health, fitness, nutrition, spiritual practices, all the things that I studied when I was a little kid. I'm like, that's really what I want to go do. And I want to go it and learn so I can do what my therapist did for me. I want to help people like my therapist helped me when I was a little kid. So I
mm,
dropped out of the program and I moved it was the East Coast of the United States. I moved to the West Coast of California and my whole life just switched. And I
mm.
did, graduate studies in transpersonal psychology. I did postgraduate work in somatic or body psychology. And that was a whole completely different path than the MBA that I was on originally.
Mm. Wow. Basically, my podcast is for people in their 20s who are
Huh?
trying to figure out life. So I would like to ask, what do you think? Like, why do so many people break internally, even when life look fine externally, right? A lot of people are going through so much, but they look okay. Why do you think this happens, actually?
Yeah, so I would say there are four In my program with individuals, I have four pillars. And
Okay.
to answer your question, I would look at all four pillars as possible explanations of why someone might be less resilient and have a really hard time with adversity. And I'll just name the pillars and I can walk through each one of them if that's okay.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, cool. The first one's physiological.
Mhm.
The second one's psychological. The third
Mhm.
one's social. And the fourth one's environmental.
Mhm.
And it's okay with you, I'll break each one down in terms of answering your question. So physiologically, and I don't know about Nigeria where you're from, but here in the United States, people eat really bad food. Not everyone, but the food is really not healthy. People don't sleep enough. People don't do enough exercise. Because of the technology we have, their circadian biology is disrupted. They're on their phone, their iPads, their computers all night into the night. They're not sleeping very well. People don't learn how to deal with their stress. So physiologically, a lot of Americans and probably around the world are at a disadvantage because they're not
Mhm.
eating right, they're not exercising, they're not sleeping well, their circadian biology is off because of all this technology, as an example. They don't deal with their stress. If the physical body is not optimized, it's not operating at its peak performance for whatever stage of development you are in. It's different for a 25-year-old than a 50-year-old, of course.
Mhm.
But like, if you're not optimized physically at your stage of development and you have a lot of stressors coming in, you're less likely to be able to physically deal with them well.
Mhm.
If your physical body is not doing so well, you're less vital, your energy's off, you're just dysregulated, you're just really tired and cranky and whatever. Your
Mhm.
psychology is going to be off because we're a whole human system. The mind reflects the body reflects the mind. So
Mhm.
even if psychologically you're trying to do the right thing and you want to be as strong as possible and really resilient, if your body is off, that's really, really hard. So let me just stop there. That's kind of the physiological side of why someone might
Yeah.
not be able to handle adversity or the challenges in their life. And then I can go into the psychological, social, and environmental if you like.
Okay. I would actually like you to walk us through those processes, both psychological, environmental, and everything. Just walk us
Okay.
through those things here.
Okay. Yeah, and I'll do each pillar and then I'll stop to make sure it makes sense and you can ask whatever questions you like.
All
So
right.
the physiological, dialing your sleep, fitness, movement, circadian biology, and
Mm.
and stress management. Psychologically, I would ask the
Mm.
questions like, what is your thinking like? Meaning some people have a growth-oriented mindset and some people have a fixed mindset. So
Mm.
like someone with a fixed mindset would see challenge, actually, let me restate that, would see a problem and see it as a problem, and it
Mm.
might scare them, right? And
Right.
they might be reactive to it cognitively. Someone with a growth mindset might look at a challenge, might look at the situation as a challenge. Oh, this really effing sucks, but I'm going to take it on. I'm going to learn from this. I'm going to grow. That's such a different mindset than someone who has a fixed mindset who's like, the situation's horrible. I'm the victim of this thing, and this is going to crush me. Completely different mindset than someone who says, yeah, this does suck. This is really effing hard. And yet I'm going to take it as an opportunity to, see who I am, to challenge myself, to grow from this. What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? Doesn't mean it's easy. I mean, this could be really effing hard, but if it's a different mindset, would have a different approach to the same situation. And if someone has the fixed mindset, they're less likely to adapt, evolve, grow, and learn from a situation. It most likely
Mm.
it'll cause them to collapse
Mm.
psychologically.
Okay.
So that's a psychological piece. Underneath that is the emotions, and I would say energy of the physical body as well, but also spirituality.
Mm.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be religious belief. Like I'm a Christian, I'm a Jew, I'm a Muslim, I'm a Buddhist, I'm a Hindu. Although
Mm.
that can be important because someone
Yeah.
can rely on their religion to help them through challenging times. Like
Yeah.
Jesus, if you're a Christian, Jesus is on your side. That's
Yeah.
awesome. But that's not exactly what I mean. What I'm thinking about is, and it could be related to religion, is what are your values and principles?
Mm.
Because if I walk around and one of my values is courage, and I do what I can do in my life to cultivate more courage in my life.
Mm.
And I'm building it, and I look at a challenge. I'm going to take on the challenge because I'm going to say I'm going to be more courageous than the challenge. I'm going to
Mm.
address this right here and now, or as soon as I can. Or if
Yeah.
love is one of my values or one of my principles that guide my behavior, like, okay, if this is a situation that has to do with other people, how can I approach the situation in a loving, caring, compassionate way? Because that's a
Mm.
value that's really important to me. So
Mm.
depending what one's values and principles are, it can help make you more solid against whatever the challenge or the whatever it might be out there. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does actually.
Okay. And it obviously can connect to religion because you can find your values and principles religiously too, but you don't have to necessarily. You don't have to necessarily have religious values. They can be secular values. There's a lot of people who walk around and they're inspired by other things besides religiosity. No judgment on either one of them. Is the
Um,
Obviously, if you're religious people, if they believe if they're monotheistic and they believe in God, that's a huge support system to have, different
yeah.
than maybe an atheist or an agnostic person who doesn't have that. So that could make it even more likely for you to succeed, whatever the challenge might be. But you can also have values and principles outside of religion. Is ultimately my point. So that's the psychological piece, like your mindset, how you handle your emotions, your values and principles, or your spirituality. I'll
Mm.
stop there. And the next one's social. Let me ask, see if you're okay with going to the social.
Yes, I'm okay with that actually.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I talk to a lot of people about, if they ever ask me, like, if I'm having a really hard time, there's a lot of adversity in my life, a lot of challenges, I'd ask, what kind of support do you have?
Mm.
Or if you're married, does your wife or husband support you? Your parents, if your parents are still alive, your children, depending their age, you got to be really careful because you don't want to put pressure on a 5-year-old. But if they're adult children, maybe they can be helpful. Your
Mm.
friends, if you're part of a religious community, wherever your social engagements are, I ask the question of the people I work with, like,
Yeah.
are there people in those communities you're part of that love and support you?
Mm.
That can be really helpful when you're having a really hard time, when you're facing the adversity. If I can go to my priest, my rabbi, or my father, or my wife, whomever I
Yeah.
can find some solace and strength from, that can go a long way. And I always encourage people, don't do it alone.
Mm.
I mean, it's good to be able to handle things on your own if you can, but you don't have to. Don't rely on everyone else, but
Mm.
it can be helpful to have other people in your life to support you to go through these really hard times. So that's the
Mm.
social piece. Find
Okay.
yourself good friends, good family members, people in the spiritual religious community that can support you, whatever it is that can just kind of hold your hand or sometimes kick you in the butt. That maybe you need a kick in the
Mm.
butt to move forward, whatever it is. But the social is a really important part of being more resilient and supporting you through hard times.
Okay. When you were talking about, finding support, I couldn't help but think, right? There are some people who are orphans, or they are just people in different situations, right? How about those people that do not have any support system? How do they thrive in the world, basically?
Yeah, so I mean, it's hard to make a universal statement because I'd rather, like, if there's an example of someone, because then I could walk through their social context, but I'll try to make it a universal thing. So
Okay.
let's just say, like, you don't have family, you don't have a lot of friends, but you're religiously inclined. Maybe
Yeah.
you're a Christian, you're a Catholic, Eastern Orthodox. Okay, maybe you can go to the church and you can
Mm.
talk to the pastor or the priest, become a member of the church and develop friendships there, or
Yeah.
of another religion. You go talk to the person who's in charge, like whatever the priest role might be in other faiths, the rabbi if you're Jewish, a mom if you're Muslim, or a monk if you're Buddhist. And you can join religious communities and try to get support from them.
Mm.
Yeah, as long as the religiosity supports your value system. I wouldn't encourage anyone to go to a place that they don't agree with. But if it's a good fit for your heart and they're good people, maybe they could play a
Mm.
good role to help you through the challenging times you face.
All right. Okay. So moving on, right? The
Mhm.
last phase. All right.
So the environmental piece, and I break this up into two different ways of thinking about it. Someone's under a lot of stress, challenging times in their life, whatever it happens to be. Even if they're not, I always ask this question. Does your environment support the person you are and the person you want
Mm.
to be? Is it supportive? Your home, your office, your transportation. And I'll give you a simple example that maybe it has very little to do with challenging times or adversity. But if someone
Yeah.
came to me and they're like, I'm 30 pounds overweight, and I'm talking to them and they're like, I eat way too much sugar. Okay.
Mm.
I'm not a nutritionist, but we can talk about your food consumption and what you do. Show me your desk. Like, let me see your home office desk or your desk at the work
Yeah.
and show me your pantry, show me your refrigerator. And they show
Mm.
me, and there's like ho-hos and Twinkies and cupcakes and cake and, all kinds of sugary snacks. And I'm like, well, if you're trying not to eat those things, and it's literally right in front of you or in your pantry or in your refrigerator, you're spending a lot
Yeah.
of willpower points trying not to do something.
Mm.
Why don't we remove those things from your environment, put healthier things in there, so you
Mm.
automatically reduce your sugar consumption. So you're not fighting your desires for sugar because they're not there teasing you.
Mm.
And I can translate that into for me personally. So I don't have a
Yeah.
weight issue, but like for me, I like cleanliness. Like
Okay.
I like things very organized. And if I'm stressed, if I have a messy environment, it makes it more stressful for me.
Mm.
So for me, and everyone's unique and everyone's different. Some people like messy environments. That's cool. I'm not no judgment, right? But for
Yeah.
me, I don't. So like if well, normally I would keep it clean. If I'm under extra amounts of stress, facing some really hard challenges, I keep it extra clean because I
Mm.
don't want to be distracted by all kinds of stuff in my environment, which is just overwhelming to me. And
Yeah.
that's also cyber hygiene. Like I'm crazy when it comes to my computer screen. Like I have everything in nice folders, everything's organized. That's me. But like I don't like things all over the place. So I keep things really organized. So my suggestion if I'm working with someone is like look at your environment. Does it
Mhm.
support who you are and who you want to become? If it doesn't, let's modify it. And if it does, great. And we add to it, go make it a little bit better. And that can help make you a little bit more, excuse me, a little bit more resilient too.
Okay. All right. Wow. This has actually been really, really insightful. I feel like I've learned a lot.
Oh,
And I also
good,
feel
good.
like I also feel like you have more to offer, right? So do you have any advice for people in their 20s who are trying to, be better in life, basically? So any
I
advice?
do. I do. I do. So, first of all, get into some really good health habits now. Don't wait
Mm.
till you're 40 or 50 like me or 60 and your health has declined and you got to like, oh my God, I got to figure it out. Getting good
Yeah.
habits now. I mean, yes, if you're young, you probably like to go out with your friends. That's fine. But the nights you're not going out with your friends dancing or whatever you do, get good sleep, 7 to 9
Mm.
hours. Find out what your sweet spot is, and get to bed as best as you can at the same time every night. Wake up at the same time every morning as best as you can. The research shows that's good for sleep hygiene and quality of sleep. Sleep, 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 sleep. Now, young people are like, "Oh, I don't need sleep. I can work on 5 hours of sleep. I was up all night partying, and I can go to school or go to work." Yes and no. Like they think they can and they probably do it, but there are consequences long term. So the best you
Yeah.
can do is down your sleep. That's a great sleep habit. Physical exercise. You don't have to be a bodybuilder. You don't have to run 50-mile marathons or 24. You don't have to run marathons, but like,
Yeah.
some weight training, a little bit of cardio, some flexibility, weight
Mhm.
training, some cardio and yoga, like some combination of those things, 3 to 4 days a week. Awesome. Sick, whatever your thing is, you like basketball, you like martial arts, whatever your thing is, just do it regularly and don't quit. I mean, obviously quit if you get injured, but like physical exercise is so good for the brain, it's so good for the body, your health. So get a good exercise regime and then manage your use of technology as best as you can. Like I know young
Mm.
people like they grew up with it. It's like attached to their brains,
Yeah.
but there's so many health consequences to overuse of the technology.
Mm.
So get into as many good behaviors as you can to limit its use. And I'm not saying don't use it because it's part of our life. It's ubiquitous, but like, limit your use as best as you can. Have a life outside of your technology.
Mm.
Another piece of that is like, yeah, friends. Like, make sure
Mm.
your friends are not just on the computer. Like, sit down,
Mm.
put your phone away, and actually have a conversation with your friends. I don't know in
Mm.
your country, but here in the United States, I see people like sitting next to each other and they're texting each other.
With
They're
their
not actually
phone.
talking.
Yeah.
oh, like, you need real human to human contact. That's important.
Mm, yeah.
Um, and then I'll also say too, if you happen to be religious or spiritual, have religious or spiritual practices. If you pray, pray regularly. If you
Mm,
meditate, meditate. If you like to chant, chant. If you have a religious book, the Bible, the Torah, Bhagavad Gita, if you're a Hindu, whatever your book is, read it
mm,
regularly. Engage your spiritual practice if it's important to you, and do spiritual practices like meditate, like pray, whatever the things are in your tradition, if you have one, as a
mm,
regular basis. And then like the last little piece is just kindness. I'll throw that as a last, but probably most important thing. Slow down enough because we have a really busy life. We're always doing stuff
mm, yeah.
to look around and to see who might need a little extra kindness from you. A friend, a
Mm,
family member, a stranger on the bus, a stranger in the grocery store. There are a lot
mm,
of suffering people out there, and
mm,
just 2 minutes or even a minute of kindness can literally
mm,
save a life.
mm,
So like take care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, but take care of your fellow humans as best as you can by being heart driven and as kind as
mm.
possible.
Wow. Thank you so much. This has been really, really insightful.
Cool.
And yeah, I learned a whole lot from it. And I really hope my listeners can also do the same, right? So finally, I would like to ask, where can people get to know more about you? Do you have your website or something?
I do. Thank you for asking. Michael D, the letter D, Ostrolenk, OSTROLENK.com. And I'm on Instagram, M Ostrolenk, first initial, Michael Ostrolenk, Twitter, M Ostrolenk. I'm on Substack, Michael D. Ostrolenk, and I'm on LinkedIn, Michael D. Ostrolenk.
Oh, thank you so
Yeah,
much,
cool.
Michael. It's so nice to it's nice to finally have these conversations with you. And yeah, it's time to wrap up, right? All right. So thanks for tuning in to Conversations with Sekani. If this episode sparked something in you, make sure to share to someone who you think might need this, and also subscribe so you don't miss out on new episodes.